He was born into a manufacturing family, went to school for business, and decided, you know what, screw all of that, let's do some motor racing, and built one of the greatest supercars of all time. Steve Saleen and the company that's named after him. As stated in the intro, he grew up in California to a manufacturing family and decided to enter the University of Southern California for business until he started motor racing. First, he was in Formula B. Then he moved up to Formula Atlantic, where he finished third overall in the championship, and that got him noticed enough to ditch the lower Formula Series and move up to the SCCA Trans Am competition in 1982, driving a Ford Mustang. And this would be the start of his long and prosperous partnership with Ford, because just 1 year later he founded Saleen Autosport with his new favorite racing car, the Fox Body Mustang. The car finished first in class at the 24 Hours of Motorsport in 1984. Then, 9 years and a GT class championship later, the team evolved from a lone car into a multi-car challenger in the SCCA World Car Challenge. And the three-car team, it's not what you would expect. There was Steve himself, Bob Bondurant, the Bob Bondurant, and Tim Allen, the actor guy. That's a combination. You got the legendary racing driver turned tutor, partnered with the company's founder, partnered with Tim Allen. It worked though. Saleen took 3 titles between 1996 and 1998, and meanwhile, off the track, his business was also starting to flourish. He had an aftermarket part business as well, experimenting with supercharging the Fox Body Mustang. In fact, he was the first to offer a supercharger kit on the Fox in 1985. By 1990s, he established Saleen Performance Parts to manage all of the orders he was receiving. Pretty soon, though, demand got so severe and so good that he decided to branch out from making parts to making entire modified cars, sort of like Nismo. He started building factory kits based off of existing Mustangs, starting with the SSC. They took the 5.0 V8, added a larger throttle body, new manifolds, tubular steel headers, and a little bit more to make nearly 300 horsepower, which is pretty good for the time period. And that was just the engine. The rest of the car got a quick ratio shifter, 4-wheel disc brakes, electronically adjustable suspension, a body kit, and a sweet paint scheme to tack it all on. That is incredibly advanced technology for the late 80s, early 90s. I mean, that's Porsche 959 stuff. That was more advanced than the Ferrari F40. And for a little cherry on the sundae top, he added a 10-speaker sound system by taking out the rear seats. You gotta have your priorities straight. I don't know what Porsche's thinking of putting a stupid little roll cage and harnesses in there. And you can put a speaker sound system. Well, only 161 of the things were made. And it set Saleen on a course for what it is today, which is modifying Mustangs. And they continued that with the 10th anniversary of Saleen at the SN94 Mustang. There was the SR, which made 480 horsepower in 1994, which they then modified all the way up to the S351, which was Steve Saleen's answer to the SVT Cobra. It had 4-piston brakes, tires by Pirelli, a carbon fiber hood, carbon fiber rear wing, suspension from their racing division, and a 22-gallon fuel cell, again ripped right out of their racing division. And just for good measure, it got a 5.8-liter supercharged V8 that made 500 horsepower and 490 torque. That is more torque than the McLaren F1. Speaking of high-end supercars, tuning Mustangs is all well and good. But Steve had a much bigger dream. His own supercar. So in 1999, he started Project Molly, and just 1 year later, the S7 supercar was unveiled at Laguna Seca Raceway. Its chassis is lightweight aluminum, the body is carbon fiber, and it's styled to generate its own weight and downforce at 160 miles an hour. Not that that weight is particularly much, at just 2,900 pounds, which is kind of incredible considering the massive 7-liter naturally aspirated V8, making 550 horsepower mounted in the middle. It can hit 60 in 2.8 seconds, but it's not just a track weapon or a dragster. It's got a trunk at the front and the rear for storage, leather seats, even a reversing camera. But Steve wants more, so he bolted 2 turbos on it, making 750 horsepower that could hit 248 miles an hour. But Steve still wants more, so he offered a competition package for the twin turbos, which brought up the power up to 1,000 horsepower. It also changed up the suspension, added a carbon fiber wing, carbon fiber splitter, and diffuser, just to keep the thing vaguely under control. Now naturally, it's such a fast, incredible machine, it was tendered in racing, specifically GT series across the globe. In 2001, it won 19 out of the 32 races it entered, including the 12 Hours of Sebring. The next year, it won 18 out of 40 races, but its biggest upset came in 2004. Setting the stage, it was the Italian round of the FIA GT1 Championship at Imola, and Maserati had just unveiled their MC12 in their home turf. The Italians, Maserati, Lamborghini, and Ferrari were heavy favorites. However, the S7R, driven by privateers, Vitaphone racing teams, scored a shock overall victory against the Italians in their own backyard. Even Ferrari was forced to admit they couldn't catch the Saleen. Then after that incredible upset, the S7 sort of fell off the earth, and it went out of production in 2007. Except in 2010, when out of the blue, Larbrick Competition commissioned Oreca to prep an S7R for the LMGT1 class at Le Mans. Why? I don't know, but it was built after hours by some Saleen engineers because of funding issues. Despite the hastiness and the fact it had been out of production for 3 years, it won its class and finished 13th overall. Saleen had tried for years as a factory team to win Le Mans with no success at the Circuit de la Sarthe, and these guys took it on the spot with a privateer cash-strapped one. Hell yes. And it actually led to a renewed interest in the S7, leading to the 2017 S7 LM model. Admittedly, you had to donate your S7 for a conversion, but for what you got, it was well worth it. The aero was resculpted in a wind tunnel, leading to new ground effect elements, a wider rear spoiler, and a smoother side skirt. The engine also got a slight bump to 1,500 horsepower and 1,400 foot-pounds of torque. Saleen claims an estimated 0 to 60 of 2.2 seconds and a top speed just shy of 300 miles an hour, although I haven't found anywhere that's actually proven those claims, because who the hell is going to go 300 miles an hour outside of Germany? And besides, even if you could find someone to do it, only 7 of them have actually been converted, so good luck finding one. Now, the S7 is an incredible achievement for the American sports car 9 supercar, almost hypercar industry. But while working on it, Saleen decided to expand their operations. They made performance versions of the V8 Explorer, the V6 Explorer, the Focus, the F-150, the Raptor, and became a Tier 1 supplier, with Ford painting the GT and Chrysler painting the Viper. And their work with Chrysler began another expansion into other companies, so they started making performance kits called the 570X for the Challenger with 700 horsepower, and their first Camaro in 2012 called the 620, making 650 horsepower. Naming's a bit weird, but no matter, because they also made the Tesla Model S, called the 416 and the GTX. Their first electric vehicles, which can make up to 700 horsepower. But what do they do currently? What's their big game? Well, their top of the line is the Black Label S302 Mustang. It's their $78,000 flagship, and that does not include the price of the car. But it makes 800 horsepower from a twin-screw supercharger and a new cold air intake. It hits 60 in 3.7 seconds, and it's actually pretty safe for a big, powerful muscle car because of its 15-inch front brakes. But most impressively, it does all of this without voiding the factory warranty, because Ford has a really cool policy where if you are a trusted supplier like Roush, Saleen, or Steeda, you can upgrade the car to your heart's galore without voiding the warranty. So good on you, Ford. And they're going to continue expanding their operations in the near future with the new Bronco. It's in homage to the Big Ali winner of the Baja 1000 in the 1960s. And I think it looks really good. And I have no doubt that it will produce a cathedral of horsepower. But I don't know, because not much information aside from the photos has been released yet, but expect it to be a lot more powerful and a lot more expensive than the original Bronco. For something more attainable right now, you could try their successor to the S7, the S1. Sure, it only has a Saleen-designed 2.2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, but it still makes 450 horsepower. Clearly not a hypercar like the S7, but it's not supposed to be. It's got full carbon fiber, weighs just 2,700 pounds, it's got a 6-speed manual, adjustable double wishbone suspension. It is a proper driver's car, meant to give you the feel of a sports car, not just abject terror from the 7-liter twin-turbo monster behind you. And it also costs considerably less than the multiple millions of dollars an S7LM will cost you, considering this S1 is just $100,000. And it even had its own racing series, if you were into that, called the S1 Cup, but haven't heard anything on that since COVID, so COVID may have just claimed another victim. God damn it. Regardless, I think it's a great vehicle, and I think it's a interesting successor to the S7. Is it the same as a Le Mans winning American hypercar? I'm not sure, but I like the direction they're going in, and they are looking to be as interesting and as horsepower craving as they were in the 90s for some time.